Nigeria's ICT sector has become a major contributor to the country's gross domestic product, far higher than what oil and gas, agriculture, construction and other major sectors contribute to the economy. According to the latest GDP report for the first quarter of the year, the ICT sector grew by 6.47%. making it the fastest growing sector of the Nigerian economy. However, the recent restriction by the federal government on Twitter, a leading microblogging platform, has begun to take its toll on Nigeria's fragile economy, leading to a loss of 7.5 billion naira in the past 3 days. According to the reports, for every hour Twitter stays blocked, Nigeria loses 90.7 million naira, as an estimated 39.6 million Nigerians with Twitter accounts have been disconnected over the past 31 hours as of 7 a.m. on June 6th, which comes to at the cost of 2.8 billion naira. Experts of the view that the suspension has already created a market access gap for millions of small and medium-scale enterprises that use the platform to reach their customers, as this could potentially complicate the challenges of COVID-19 and other structural defects that had posed on businesses, affecting the e-commerce market in the country. The estimate is also about 12 billion US dollars. Well, to look at this and of course discuss this and other issues, I have joining me live in the studio is a technology team coach, Mr. Idowu Akinde. Mr. Akinde, it's good to see you in the studio. It's been a while. Good afternoon.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm going to start this way from very interesting. People talk about how important this is, and really it is important. Microblogging, social media websites costing us a lot of money just because of this few days. Now, why do you think this actually happened? There are a lot of things to look at: sovereignty, security issues, and of course integrity. Now, how does this come to you?
Okay, so as you know, I like to hear both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we look at the government side,
yeah,
first of all, every government, or every governmental authority has a duty to protect the sovereignty of their borders, and in this case, well, the sovereignty of their people, operations, blah, blah, blah. There is, no point denying or minimizing that fact that there may be information that is available to the handlers of the government that is not available to the general public about how Twitter might be used as a tool to undermine the government. Let's give them the benefit of doubt. Having said that and having acknowledged that, on the other side, which is part of the indices that I just saw on the screen, it's also probably more far-reaching than initially imagined by the people who put out the suspension. What we have come to experience over the last, as you said, 48 to, over the last 2 days. It's obvious that perhaps the far-reaching implications that we're experiencing now were not thought, that deeply. Of course, there are a lot of factors, there are a lot of, aspects to consider, but the core thing is, while taking steps to address certain gaps or deficiencies that you might have noticed as a government, sometimes you may want to call experts, ask them. Sometimes you may want to consult with, hey, technology market experts, hey, technology experts, hey, SME experts, hey, macroeconomic policy experts. Can we just spend, even if it's just 30 minutes, right? Those kinds of people, just call them to a virtual meeting, fire up a Zoom or a Google Meet or a virtual meeting and just discuss, even if it's for 15 minutes, before going ahead with those things. The kinds of backlash that have come over the last 2 days, over the last 3 days, are really, really embarrassing, for the not just for the government, for all of us that have, the label Nigeria attached to our name. So, if you don't mind, we can go into the details as you lead, but that will be my own opener. I'd like to say, yes, there is an acknowledgement of the government's need to protect its sovereignty, because that's what they've said, right? And it does make sense. But then, while you're doing that, you also want to be sure that you are not sabotaging the economic efforts that you are making. right? Because we just saw 7.5 billion naira loss in 31 hours. Come on. that's not small by
That's really a lot of money. Yeah. While we still look at where the government stands and, of course, the reality on ground, the next thing we heard was also Facebook also deleted this same tweet, and I don't know what you think about that, because many thought that would have also happened. I was able to read even in the newspapers today that all government officials, everyone have now moved to Facebook. So what happened? Why did we ignore that along that line?
Okay, so I was kind of expecting that question from you. I thought, I was kind of expecting that. So I am still waiting to hear some kind of corresponding announcement concerning Facebook. Otherwise, it amounts to double standards, or at least the appearance of double standards. Because if the federal government of Nigeria could take a policy stand and make an announcement on that position concerning the quote-unquote violations of its sovereignty by, potential violation of its sovereignty by use of a platform called Twitter, evidenced by a certain tweet. The equivalent of that tweet on Twitter is a post on Facebook that Facebook coincidentally, or perhaps intentionally, we don't know, coincidentally deleted after the Nigeria suspension. Well, perhaps to say, are you going to delete Facebook as well, right? Are you going to suspend Facebook as well? So that's why I said it's a really interesting question. And if you are the drama liking, if you are the type that likes drama, we are really, really waiting for what's going to happen. The reason being that unlike Twitter, Facebook's influence on the Nigerian economy is much more than Twitter. Twitter has perhaps maybe 5 million, perhaps. I can't remember what number I just saw, right?
But from what I saw today online and from the NetBlock estimate, we have 39.6 million youths active on
40 million.
Twitter. That's about 40 million.
I think you can easily double that for Facebook.
Yes,
but even more than the number of users, Facebook as a corporation owns Facebook.com, owns WhatsApp, and owns Instagram. Imagine shutting down Facebook.com, the assets, the online assets, shutting down WhatsApp and shutting down Instagram in Nigeria. I don't know that anybody who cares about the Nigerian economy would allow that to happen. But if you don't shut it down, then it's like a catch-22. If you don't shut it down, then you've applied one principle to one online asset, aka Twitter, but you can apply the same principle to Facebook. But if you go ahead and apply and escape the double standards trap, then you fall into the trap of disabling your own economy. And I'm sure that the people in charge of Nigeria right now do not want to have to explain to the entire 200 and something million people how they are not doing a good job concerning managing the economy. So, as I said, it's a bit of the devil or the deep blue sea.
Honestly, I get so worried, particularly at this time where we face this fragile growth in our economy and we're trying to stabilize. Look at what ICT contributed while I was ruling out the intro for development, even doing almost better than even the oil and gas that we've always focused on. So now let's look at the effect now, because I have friends, I know people, influencers, digital marketers, that they're always online, they use the Twitter platform and all of this. Now, millions of small businesses are here. What do you think will be happening or running through their minds at the moment?
Well, I mean, everybody was just as confused, right? People have done a lot of analysis, right? As they say, beer parlor analysis.
Yes,
right? People have done a lot of that because nobody really expected it, right? So people are wondering, is it a ban? Is it a suspension? Is it a restriction? We've heard all sorts of terms used, right? Because people are trying to figure out, is it a ban? Does a ban affect the adverts I have paid for since last month that should run until next month? Does a suspension affect it? Does a restriction? So first of all, there are the advert by. Well, first of all, there are the people who, like the digital marketers, who help other people or businesses establish a web presence. In other words, they sell advert slots to those people. So there's millions of digital marketing companies, all over Lagos. Look at all of the all over Nigeria. Look at all of the investments that a Google, for instance, over the last 3 to 4 years has made in upskilling Nigerians with digital marketing skills. Google alone has been responsible for training, hundreds, if not thousands, of digital marketers in Nigeria. All of those guys have outlets, and they're using Google, Facebook, Twitter. A suspension means they've been out of work, they've lost revenue over the last, say, 48 hours. Now, that's the first layer. The second layer is the people that they sell those adverts to. So, for instance, I sell makeup, shoes, suits, right, shirts, ties, and I've engaged the services of a digital marketer to push, promote, boost my presence online in order to further boost sales. This 48-hour darkness, quote unquote, has to have a tool on my business, and there are millions of businesses like me. So multiply me by millions of people who rely on that kind of stuff. That is GDP that the government just lost. Yes. And for every hour that we that we continue to keep it down, we continue to lose money. So sometimes when you think about these things in purely economic terms, forget the politics, forget the optics, as it were. But purely economic terms, then you can say, well, this is what we should do, or as a case.
It really is what we should do. I was putting down a figure, a country growing at about 0.51%. It's marginal, and we can't say at this time we won't sustain the growth in the ICT space. Let's now do the economic view. Look at what this also means for the entire economy. Okay, research shows that Twitter is worth about $50 billion US, and Nigeria's external debt is at about 30-something billion US dollars. Economic activities in Nigeria, $200 million. These figures look very beautiful, but how do you now see this impacting, of course, on Nigeria's economy? That's the way we'll look at it.
I'll put it like this. Let's imagine that on this TVC road, on this road, right, there are two companies. One of them is in deficit to the tune of about 30-something billion. Let's just say, to be polite, let's just say $30 billion.
Okay.
The other one has positive net assets. Positive. The first one we described is in deficit, which is negative assets, right? Negative monetary assets of $30 billion. The other one has positive assets. So it's like the difference between them is like $80 billion. The other one has positive assets of $50 billion. And then it just so happens that maybe a few months ago, there was this partnership between them where the one in deficit now is receiving patronage from the bigger one and is gradually on a path to getting out of that deficit. Then for some reason, something makes that company in deficit to temporarily, as it were,
strict.
Maybe call for a suspension of the contract, quote unquote, meaning for the next indefinitely, we don't know if we want to do business with you. What does that say? If, for instance, this same company that was in deficit was pitching to investors, saying, look at my growth record, I've been progressively making progress to get out of debt. Suddenly, it looks like a decision that is hard to defend. So suddenly you make a decision that looks hard to defend. How are your investors suddenly going to see you? Remember that every investor evaluates investors based on investments based on alternatives. So the investor is going to say, Nigeria, okay, looks like I was 8/10 of the way to making an investment. Suddenly, I beg. Let me look at that other one that somebody sent to me last week. Hey, if you were an investor, if I can put it to you, if you were an investor and you had alternative investments, table
I have to put my money where my mouth is.
You are not going to be sentimental. You're going to be looking at where you have, quote unquote, stability, right? Not variability of policy making. Today it's this, tomorrow it's that. I don't want to refer to similar incidences in the past, but I'm sure you get my point. I think that these things do not look. Some of what I'm saying is that they don't look good on us, especially to the foreign investor community.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that question. How will this, the impact on foreign investment at this time where even our stock market is bleeding so badly. Marginal profit is what we see, and we need investors to come in. So ease of doing business is also on one side, and we keep wanting invest. Look at what happened with the office, the site in the office in Ghana. Some say maybe that was the reason why that even happened. So you can see it's looking like our environment is not as conducive as it's perceived to be.
It's interesting that you talk about the siting of the office in Ghana. I remember that quite a number of my friends, were debating this. Nigeria is the default. Should be the default place that everybody wants to site their African headquarters office. But I beg to disagree, partly because I'm not under the delusion that a lot of my fellow Nigerians are under, that Nigeria is the giant of Africa. I don't believe that thing anymore, right? But that's another topic for another day.
For another day.
I feel that what we need to do, right? Okay. Back to the Ghana, and then I'll come back to the initial question. So concerning Twitter citing their headquarters in Ghana, we forget, right, that again, taking an economic view, taking the view of the investors and the management team, the leadership team of Twitter, there are all sorts of indices that they would have looked at. For instance, given my consulting background, there's something that we call a pestle analysis, right? Which is an analysis of the environment around which a business operates, or in the case of an investment, around which you want to cite a business. So Twitter wants to cite their headquarters in Africa. They're going to think west, east, south, or north, first of all. Okay, it looks like west, right? Maybe they've eliminated the other three. It looks like west, Nigeria, Ghana, and then they're going to take a lot of indices into
consideration.
Access, infrastructure, access, stability. So PESTEL stands for political, environmental, I forget right now, social, technology, legal, and I forgot the last one. But those are like templated columns or areas to analyze when you want to cite that. Coming back to the question about FDI. For me, like I said earlier, it's more about thinking strategically about where we want to be, okay? If I had the ear of the Honorable Minister, I would have advised, immediately that thing came out, by all means possible, it doesn't matter if it looks like a saving face, please reverse it, right? Because if you look at the youth, if you look at the demographic constitution of Nigeria, everybody, especially, this was made very popular during the last election cycle. Yes. Nigeria is a youth, Nigeria is 70% youth. I'm not even a youth, because as they say, youth is 35 years and below, right? Technically, as young as I think I look, right? I'm not even a youth. But the point is, if 70% of 200 million people are 35 years and below, and they are the ones that are, if I go and write rubbish on Twitter, they will take me apart, right? Without any mercy, without even giving you a breathing space. Therefore, the government, even though the demography of people in government is not reflective of the larger society, right? That's 200 million population. Then the government needs to start to find ways to channel the opinions and the aspirations and the wishes of those guys into their policy making. This apparent trend, I deliberately use the word apparent, right? Apparent. This apparent trend of taking decisions that appear hasty. I don't want to refer to specific incidents, but this apparent trend of taking decisions that appear to be hasty, and then they look like they weren't properly thought out, does not look good to the foreign investment community. Beyond Twitter, Facebook, and other global corporations, especially tech corporations that have investments in Nigeria, there are many more that have not yet looked at Nigeria, but would love to invest in Nigeria. Look at what's happening in the tech startup space. A lot of people are pouring billions of dollars of capital into Africa and Nigeria. They would love to do more. But this kind of signals sometimes, I'm sure that we would have lost 2 or 3 at the very least. in the last 2 days.
It's worrisome. Time fast spent. But wrapping up, what's your outlook as we move on? Gradual recovery from COVID. Hopefully, this is resolved. What's your outlook for the sector?
Well, I remain the incurable optimist. I am actually in the potential for Nigeria's youth, right, to generate enough economic activity to take Nigeria back to that position. Okay, but that depends on activating this youth demography. Again, I hate to have to sound like a broken record. Whatever government is in power from now till the next, maybe 20 years, needs to deliberately engage the youth. This policy, this governmental position of we are the ones in power, you guys must comply whether you like it or not, is not going to help the country. Thank you.
It's a good way to leave it. You've heard it from technology team coach Mr. Dewakinde. Thank you very much for spending your Monday afternoon with us. I really appreciate this, and my team does too.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. But